Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT This Morning.
Now at 5:30, we have some big news from the Big Blue Nation this morning after a men's basketball star suffered a major injury. And flu cases on the rise in Kentucky. We'll tell you which schools have canceled classes today because of outbreaks of illness. And frightening moments for a Lexington family overnight after a car nearly crashed into their home. Well, it did crash into their home. These stories and breaking news as it happens coming up on WKYT this morning. Luckily, no one was hurt in that. It was a close call for them, though. Good morning. I'm Rebecca Smith. Bill Bryant has the day off. And for the first look at the weather, let's turn to meteorologist Micah Harris.
Boy, it looks good outside. Clear skies. And a lot of times, look, when we have clear skies in the morning, it leads to some really cold temperatures. And that's exactly what we're seeing outside. Hamburg lights are big and bright. Things look just fine. No real fog threat. And maybe some frost on the windshield. You have to scrape that off before you take off. But the roadways are clear. Things look good. 24 degrees, though, is those kids going off to the bus stop. You taking off to work. It's going to be a cold one. 27 there in Richmond, Mount Sterling, down toward the south. 23, Somerset, London, and sitting there in Corbin as well. Williamsburg, we're holding on to the low 20s. 8 a.m. starting off in the low to mid 20s, but we rise throughout the day pretty rapidly. We get the winds out of the south and southwest. A lot of sunshine to be had the next few days as that takes us off toward the weekend. Now the weekend, it actually gets a little bit warmer, and typically when you get a little bit warmer, something's on the way, and I'll show you when you can expect that next rainmaker coming up in a few minutes.
We go now first to developing news overnight out of the Big Blue Nation. Some major sports news this morning. We've learned that UK men's basketball forward Alex Poythress has a torn ACL. WKYT's Victor Puente is live this morning from Rupp Arena with the exclusive details on this. Victor, what do we know at this point?
Well, there are already people camping outside of Rupp Arena. That's a common sight before a big game. And tomorrow's matchup against North Carolina is just that. The UK will most likely be without their starting forward. Now, despite the freezing temperatures, fans are doing their best to get seats for the game against the Tar Heels, but they'll probably see a change in the starting lineup. We don't have many details about how the injury happened, but we do know junior power forward Alex Poythress was hurt during practice. WKYT has confirmed that injury is a torn ACL in his knee. And Poythress has started 8 games. He's averaging 5.5 points, almost 4 rebounds a game for the undefeated Wildcats. He's also the team's leading free throw shooter at 86%. UK plays North Carolina tomorrow at 11. The next 2 games after that are UCLA and then at Louisville. We should know more about the injury this afternoon. UK coach John Calipari will hold his regularly scheduled press conference at 2. We also hope to learn more about Poythress' status for the rest of the season. Live in Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
New this morning, some scary moments for a Lexington family after a driver lost control and clipped their house with his car. This happened around midnight on East Tiverton. Police tell us the driver tried to turn onto Tiverton, but instead kept going straight into a yard. He hit a tree, then clipped the side of the home. 7 people lived there. 2 kids were in the living room when the accident happened. One woman who lives there says she's ready to move.
I'm going to Walmart tomorrow and getting a for sale sign whether mom likes it or not, and it's going in the front yard.
Thankfully, no one was injured. Police say the wreck was just an accident and the driver was cited for not having a license. Well, Kentucky's flu activity level is now at the highest level possible. State health leaders say it's so widespread, several schools are closed. WKYT's Mark Barber is live from the Fayette County Health Department with the very latest. Good morning.
Good morning, Rebecca. Because sickness is sweeping through their schools, the Harrison County School District and Tolliver Elementary in Danville are closed today. Students who are exhibiting flu-like symptoms are also out sick in many other school districts. In Mercer County, school officials have started asking parents to leave children who appear to be sick at home. At Paris Elementary in Bourbon County, 20% of their students were out sick yesterday, and 10% of the students at Willis Justice Elementary in Clark County were also out yesterday. In Pulaski County, illness has spread beyond schools. Health officials there say they are looking into a flu outbreak at a nursing home. This morning, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is warning that there is a new mutated flu virus strain that doesn't look like the strain in this year's flu virus.
What this may mean is that the vaccine may work less well against flu viruses this year compared to the average year.
Now, the CDC says it is still very important to get that vaccine because it may provide some protection against that flu strain. Live in Lexington, Mark Barber, WKYT.
And the CDC says it's still important to get vaccinated because the vaccine may provide some protection against the new flu strain, as Mark mentioned. And schools are not the only places affected by flu. The Pulaski County Health Department says the state is looking into a flu outbreak at Summerwoods Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. They have 3 employees and 5 patients with the flu. One woman working in Pulaski County says she's already seen the effects of the illness.
We have a lot of people that they're constantly just telling me, how bad they felt, and that a lot of people said they couldn't even get out of bed.
Well, doctors say people 65 and older have a higher risk of getting flu because of weakened immune systems. They recommend anyone 6 months and older get a flu shot. Nearly 4 months after a truck crashed into a home, killing 4 people, a grand jury indicted a Breathitt County man for murder. Police say Sean Hardin was driving drunk at the time of the crash. He and one passenger were the only survivors. One of the victims was Josh Thorpe. His older brother says the indictment took too long and that he wants his brother back.
Every time I sit by myself, right there he is. Right there's my little brother. We want Josh back. It's what we really want. But you can't get that back.
A grand jury in Breathitt County indicted Sean Hardin on 4 counts of murder and 1 count of assault. We have an update this morning on the search for a missing Eastern Kentucky boy. Letcher County Sheriff's deputies are looking for Floyd Sexton Jr. and his 8-year-old son Nicholas. They say Sexton is a murder suspect. Deputies now say Sexton called his mother and let her speak to Nicholas. Sexton claimed the two are in Mexico, but deputies do not think they're actually out of the country. The family wants an Amber Alert issued, but the sheriff's office says it will not help.
They're primarily designed to give the general motoring public and anybody else that's listening a vehicle to look for, anything like that. And in this case, we have no idea what kind of vehicle he's in or what state.
Investigators have received some tips in the case, but so far no arrests have been made. Well, deputies say they found 2 young children living in filthy conditions at a Laurel County home. The Laurel County Sheriff's Office says they showed up at a home on Highway 25 yesterday for a welfare check. There they found a 6-year-old with head lice sleeping on a box spring and a baby in a crib with an extremely soiled diaper. Deputies say the home was covered in trash.
The residence was deplorable. I mean, nasty is not even a good word for it. It was terrible.
Well, deputies arrested the children's mother, 41-year-old Vicki Johnson. She's charged with wanton endangerment and criminal abuse. Deputies say Johnson admitted to them she had driven home drunk from a friend's house shortly before they showed up. Lexington police say they may have a break in the case of some packages stolen from the front porches of homes. Late yesterday afternoon, a man was picked up by police after a traffic stop at Man o' War and Sarin Drive. An officer following a UPS truck as part of a surveillance detail saw a man take a package from the front porch of a home. So far, the man hasn't been charged, but police say they found several packages in his car. The rebuild continues in Ferguson, Missouri. Hashtag Ferguson Rebuild is a new fund designed to help small businesses impacted by the unrest. Mike Rush is in Ferguson to explain.
However you slice it,
we are in the negative right now.
Business is bad for baker Net Red. Her shop, Cakes by Net, was going gangbusters, she says, when it opened in May. But then in August, the bottom fell out.
I would say a good 65%.
Nobody wanted to come to Ferguson.
Slim to none. No one came in.
Ferguson Rebuild, a new fund Missouri Secretary of State Jason Kander outlined today, could help Net and many others in her position. Kander says the fund is donations from companies and people who want to help the small businesses of Ferguson, Delwood, and Jennings.
One of the most common questions that I have received in the last few months from people both inside the state and around the country is, what can I do to help?
Money collected will be earmarked specifically for small businesses and go into the Reinvest North County Fund, formed in August, which has already distributed $250,000.
There aren't words to know that people that don't even know you care.
Lisa Davis, who owns 2 Ferguson businesses with her husband, an insurance agency and a home care agency, got a grant of $3,000.
But it was very helpful, and it did more for our spirit than it did, for our pockets, even though of course it helped.
Net, whose bakery is within Ferguson city limits but not close to the trouble spots of West and South Florissant, says she's been turned down for other grants. She's hopeful this one will come through.
The money is short term, I should say. What I'm looking for is people to come by. I would love for you to just come in and support us.
Well, the city of Ferguson has been in a state of unrest since the officer-involved shooting death of teenager Michael Brown back in August. Well, UK President Dr. Eli Capilouto has spoken out against controversial comments made about some protesters here. Groups of students held what are known as die-ins on campus. The purpose to protest grand jury decisions not to indict police officers for the deaths of Michael Brown and another man in New York. Dr. Capilouto said hateful comments were made about protesters later on social media. In a statement last night, he said that kind of language has no place in the community. You can see the full statement on WKYT.com. Well, a minor had to be airlifted to the hospital after he was badly injured in a strip mine accident. It happened yesterday at the Nally and Hamilton strip mine site in Bell County. Investigators say 35-year-old William Muncie was on a bulldozer when he hit a gas line that sparked a fire.
It caused a big flame, it was a pretty big fire, engulfed the whole dozer, the piece of equipment that he was working on. So it was a pretty big fire coming off a pretty big line of gas.
Muncie suffered severe burns and also did break some bones while jumping off a bulldozer. He's now being treated at Vanderbilt University Hospital in Nashville. Well, the U.S. House approved a $1 trillion spending bill to keep the government open. The compromise bill keeps government agencies funded through next September. Many Republicans opposed it because it did not block President Barack Obama's recent executive actions on immigration. Some Democrats didn't like that it eases some restrictions on banks. The bill is now in the hands of the Senate. Funding for federal agencies expired at midnight.